Hello, everybody. This is Yoko's Book Corner. Um, Now I am not starting with 50 Shades of Grey. No, 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 no. If I do that, I'm gonna be reading it during the day, on the weekdays, when nobody's around, because I really don't want to be reading that one. No, no. Actually, I picked out a book. I was actually looking to see if Song of the Lioness was on Kindle on Amazon, and I looked up Kindle Unlimited. This book right here caught my eye, and I clicked on it and read the description. I was like, "Ooh, this sounds interesting. It runs right up my alley, a fantasy type story, essentially." And yes, yes, I do have Goblin Slayer. I'm not reading that one, though. To be fair, from what I've read so far, it doesn't have any details. It doesn't even really mention the rape. It mentions that it does happen, but we don't get near as bad as it does in the anime. So I could read that one. From my other channel, of course. Anyway, this is what I'm going to be reading for this book. For this channel. The first one, anyway. Okay, but yeah, it is first year, The Black Mage, Book 1. I assume there's more than one book. And if there is, I'll be picking up the others if I actually enjoy this so much. Now then, let's go to full screen. Okay. Okay, first year. Magic Romance War. Perfect for fans of Throne of Glass, Falling Kingdoms, and Tamara Pierce. Tamara Pierce. Why does that sound a little familiar? I'm sorry, I just looked at I was like, well, that sounds kind of familiar to me. And I picked up my Song of the Lioness, Book 1, Alana the First Adventure, and she's the author. Tamara is the author of that book. So I think I will enjoy it, actually. Before the age of 17, the young men and women of Gerard are given a choice. Pursue a trade or enroll in a trial year in one of the realm's 3 war schools, study as a soldier, knight, or mage. For 15-year-old Ria, however you pronounce it, I don't know. The choice has always been easy. Become a mage and train in combat, the most prestigious faction of magic. Yet when she arrives, Rai finds herself competing against friend and foe for one of the exalted apprenticeships. Everyone is rooting for her to fail. First and foremost among them is Prince Darren, the school prodigy who has done nothing but make her life miserable since she arrived. Will Rai survive, or will her dream go down in flames? We will find out. Yeah. Don't look now, I said softly. Do I sound calm? I hope so. It was hard to tell with the frantic beating in my chest. But I think we're being followed. My brother paled, hands freezing on the reins. Almost unconsciously, his head began to turn in the direction of my warning. Alex! He jerked his head back guiltily. I hoped the movement would go unnoticed by the 4 riders trailing a quarter of a mile behind us. They hadn't appeared too concerned with our possession thus far, but the fact that the men were still following us after the last main road had ended left an unsettling taste in the back of my mouth. Ooh, this is getting interesting, guys. I've never read this book series before. Ever. I'd never even heard of it until just now. It was getting dark fast. At the elevation we were traveling, there wouldn't be much light left for long. Already the sun had wedged itself behind one of the large outcroppings of rock, and the rest of its rays were fading much too quickly for my liking. I'd hoped the party would stop to make camp at one of the few sites we'd passed. After all, what weary traveler wouldn't prefer the comfort of an easy alcove in a nearby stream? I, for one, would have assisted as much if I hadn't been for the uncanny appearance of those behind us. Ugh, God. If you heard that, I apologize so much. The horses continued their steady climb into the dark hillside above. How do we know they're following us? A pit settled in the base of my stomach. Their saddlebags are far too light for a trek through the mountains. So? I clenched my jaw, then released a long breath. It wasn't Alex's fault he didn't understand my concern. He cared about healing people, not studying the monsters that harm them. Only fools, or bandits, would travel so empty-handed. We passed the last main road to an inn hours ago. I tried to keep the trickle of fear out of my throat as I added, only a bandit wouldn't bother with supplies. They'd be taking ours instead. Yeah. Oh, these two characters are twins. Just like in the Song of the Lioness, the main character has a twin brother. Nice. My twin slowly mulled over my words. I wondered if he thought I was overreacting. I wasn't exactly known for my easygoing temperament. I hope he didn't think this was just another one of my rash judgments, as our parents were wont to assume. While I waited for Alex's response, I pretended to check the footholds, giving myself an opportunity to spy on the others. Though the men were much harder to study in the dark, there was still no mistaking the glint of steel bulging from one of the men's hips. Only a soldier or a knight was allowed to bear weapons. A chill ran through me. I doubted he was either. What should we do, Rye? Alex looked so much younger than his 15 years with fear in his eyes. My twin, the rational, level-headed, sane half of me, was afraid. What did that mean for the two of us? I refused to contemplate the answer. Instead, I scanned the trail ahead, trying to make out our route amid the lumbering pines. Fortunately, it was much easier to point out the problem than come up with a solution. Yeah. We should have taken the main road, I acknowledged belatedly. If I hadn't been so set on the faster road to the academy, we'd be on a nice, well-traveled path instead of a desolate mountain range about to be robbed. But it was too late now. Raya, whatever. I'm gonna say Raya, just let me know if I'm wrong, if you've read this series. I bit my lip. Alex was looking to me for an answer. This was, after all, my forte. What had I told my parents before we left? I would join combat or die trying. A fine choice of words. What had been meant as a melodramatic proclamation was now to be my ironic demise. I couldn't fight our way out of this, not against four-grown, arms-holding men, and certainly not without magic. I'm willing to bet that nobody really knows magic until they start going to the schools, or maybe they're not allowed to use magic before they are enrolled in the school or become a mage. I'm guessing. I'm willing to bet the former on this one. For the millionth time, I silently questioned the god's motive in my inability to cast. Ooh, I'm guessing the first one then. Inability to cast, but this wasn't the time to bemoan my lack of magic. I needed a solution fast. I peered into the trees, straining to see any sort of upcoming detour. I just realized she's got an even harder road to go through if she wants to be a mage. She can't cast. Could we find a way to circle back, lose the men in a chase, and return to the main road? Or would we do better by taking cover under darkness and moving out again at first light? Perhaps Alex was right, and the men would just carry on. We could just set up camp here and now and be none the worse. Yes, and pigs might fly, I scolded myself. You want to be a warrior mage, and yet you shirk at the first sign of danger? I did not shirk. I sidled as close to Alex as my mount could manage. When I say go, I want you to flee off west. I'll take the east. Alex opened his mouth to protest, and I clapped a hand over his mouth. We have to split up. Staying together would only increase our odds of catching us. My brother stared me down defiantly. When I removed my palm, he made a face. I'm not leaving you, Rye. I ignored him. We can meet up at that tavern we passed earlier just before the fork. If one of us isn't there within a couple of hours of daylight, then we appeal to the local guard. I swallowed. Bandits don't usually kill unless someone puts up a fight. At least that's what I've heard. But what if they won't? He shook his head stubbornly. If they find out you're a girl... Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't want that, because... they might, go the way of Goblin Slayer on this one. I looked my brother in the eye. It's our best bet, Alex. Alex swore. Riley, I don't like this plan one bit. I motioned for him to get ready. Then I leaned forward to stand in the stirrups with both hands gripped firmly on the reins. Alex copied my movement, and as soon as he was in a similar stance, I nodded. Now! A cloud of dirt and debris swelled up as my mare took off in a charge. The thundering clash of hooves and the cries of surprise from the party behind us left me with an elated sense of victory. We'd caught them off guard. I kept my eyes glued to the forest in front of me. Dark twisting branches struck out at my face and ripped against my skin. Harsh winds tore at my already chapped lips. I willed myself to ignore the numbing cold and suddenly jarring cuts from above. I hoped Alex was having better luck in his bit of the woods. I could barely see 5 feet in front of me and had to rely on the mare for navigation. Now that she knew our general direction, it was up to her to avoid what I could not. A sharp whistle of steel alerted me to a second too late as one of the men's knives nicked the side of my arm. I cried out and then immediately regretted the noise. His wound was shallow, but it caught me by surprise. I fell back against the saddle, and the mare, startled at the sudden shift in weight, slowing her gallop to a canter. I sprung to correct the error, but the mare stumbled over some loose stones and sent me pitching forward instead. My hands, slick with sweat, lost hold of the reins. Uh-oh. Not good. I shot face first towards the ground and hit the dirt with a thud. Ouch. Pain ignited in my limbs like a spark. I had only a second to roll before panicked hooves slammed the earth beside my head. Woo, that's not good. The mare took off before I could stand. Mother's gonna kill me. The coin to lease a house for the trip was already a hardship as it was. To lease a horse for the trip was already a hardship as it was. Losing said horse and indebting my parents to an angry stable master would only make things worse. I attempted to stand with wobbly legs. My muscles screamed. I had new cuts on my hands from trying to brace the fall. I couldn't tell if the thunder in my ears was from the pulsing of blood or the bandits' approach. Maybe they hadn't seen my fall. Maybe they still thought I was astride the horse. It was dark enough and it was quite possible they'd take the shot in the dark. I took a couple of hobbling steps until the hammering gave way to shouts. Gods, no. The bandits were giving orders to search the area. Crap. How are you going to get out of this one? I ducked into the nearest brush, ignoring the thorns that raked across my face and arms. I could only pray that the loud snapping of branches was just a quiet rustle outside my head. Burrowing as deep as I dared, I waited, trying not to imagine all the horrible possibilities that awaited me if I were found. One deep breath, and then another. I could hear their voices. They were getting louder. A frosty breeze brought the rancid smell of days-old sweat and ale, and I cringed. How many followed me? I bit down on my cheek as the voices drew closer. Saw the boy limping, one was saying. Oh, they think she's a boy. Okay. Another man cleared his throat. He couldn't have gone far. I could distinguish only two men. If there were a third, he was silent. The crunching of pine needles locked the air in my lungs. One of the men was right beside my bush. I could hear the shuffling of feet against some of the outlying roots. I made a silent prayer to the gods that he continued on. I reckon he went the other way, Jared. The man said, There's nothing this way but brush. Nah, he's got to be nearby. The voices were too close. My pulse hammered so loudly I was certain they could hear it. Smells good out here. This is the blackberries, you dolt. There was a rustle as a hand reached into the brush and withdrew with a curse. Bloody thorns. Let me try. A second hand shot in, grappling for a handful of berries and catching on my hair in the withdrawal. I didn't realize until the man yanked his fist back and the hair ripped from my scalp. Ugh. I clapped a hand on my mouth. Uh-oh. But it was too late. Two pairs of burly arms jerked me out of the bush with a shout. Well, well, the one whose voice I recognized as Jared drawled. Seems your appetite has its uses, Irwin. They elbowed the second man, a tall fellow with a big gut and muddy boots. Don't it? It was hard to see either of their faces as I struggled in their grip. The bandits allowed me to try, making crude remarks and laughing as I squirmed in vain. No one could save me now. Now, boy, Airman said, tell us where you and your little friend were headed. I sucked in a sharp breath. With all the blood and grime covering my brother's riding clothes I'd borrowed for the trip, they'd mistaken me for a red-headed young man. The tunic was baggy, and though ripped in the arms, it still hid most of my form. I remained silent, afraid my voice would give me away. We asked you a question. There was a loud, resounding slap as Jared's palm struck my cheek. Don't cry. My face stung and bled in places that thorns had already opened, but I wasn't about to cower. Showing fear would only encourage them. Now, the man continued, you get one more chance to answer before I start removing limbs. A sword dug into my ribs. Uh-oh. Okay, we see two people. Jared and Irwin, whatever. So where are the other two? There were at least 4. I wondered how the weapon had fallen into the outlaw's hands. Had his band cornered a lonely soldier on some deserted road and robbed him blind, like they were planning to do to me? Or had Jared killed him to prevent the soldier from telling his tale? From the pale light of the moon, I could see a rusty stain on the hilt. Bile rose in my throat, and I forced myself to swallow it back down. In the gruffest voice I could manage, I coughed. The Academy. The large man, Irwin laughed. Some mage. Where's his magic? My face burned, and I looked away. He's not a mage. He's too young. Jared's interest turned to disgust. This boy's no use. Just another village kid on his way to that blasted school. Bloody fools, always thinking they have a gift when they should be doing a man's work instead. Sexist much? I kept quiet, hoping the man would dismiss me as worthless and leave. Did you travel with a purse? Not much. Though the Crown provided a trial year of free room and board to all of its students in the kingdom's 3 war schools, it wasn't enough to offset the labor Alex and I provided in our parents' apothecary. The purse was in the saddlebags, and the mare's long gone, somewhere galloping away riderless and free. Irwin, go find the boy's horse. The pudgy outlaw groaned and started back to his mount. There was a tug on my arm as Jared dragged me toward his horse. You come with me, cause any trouble, and I won't hesitate to gut you where you stand. Hours later, Irvin returned with my mare and an armful of lumber. In the meantime, Jared and I had seen to the camp. I staggered to my feet as an order rang out to gather the wood. How long are they going to keep me? A mountain of branches was shoved at my chest, and I swayed. Would the bandits let me go at all? Or were Alex and a patrol of soldiers going to find me gutted on the side of the trail the next morning? I'll have to make a run for it when they fall asleep. The men's conversation rose as I placed more wood on the fire. Halstead and Carl haven't made it back. Hard to see anything in this blasted forest. They probably made camp somewhere else. Do you think they caught the other one? I don't see why not. Jared spat at the ground and his gaze fell to me. You, boy, is your friend a worthless brat like you, or does he have magic? His eyes gleamed over that last word. No. My lip trembled as I suspected my brother had magic. Would they try harder to find him, or use him for his abilities? Shouldn't have lied. Before I could duck, the man snatched my wrist and threw my hand... Thrust my hand into the fire. I screamed out as the flames ate at my skin. The man dropped my arm with a start. Blinking back tears, I cradled my hand, careful not to touch the patch that turned a nasty, glistening red. Well, well. I glanced up to find Jared smirking. Why don't you try and get us some more wood, Irwin? The man's eyes never left my face, and the corner of his lips rose higher. Shit. This isn't gonna be good. I might end up having to, I don't know what I'll do if this ends up turning into a rape scene. I never read this book before, so I don't know if there's anything like that. The man's eyes never left my face, and the corner of his lip rose higher. I would go myself, but someone's got to watch the boy. He knows. Irwin shot Jared a confused look. I just brought a whole lot of it. Just fetch us more, you words, you dolt. As soon as his comrade disappeared, the bandit turned to me, hunger playing across his malevolent gaze. I knew it. Unless something pops up and saves her, we might be getting that kind of scene. And I really don't want to have to read it. I was thinking that I would be able to avoid it with Goblin Slayer, because it's not in there as far as I know. Oh dear. The shadows from the fire swept across his face, making every inch of him more menacing than before. Who would have thought, the man sneered. A girl. I glanced around the sight as panic took hold of my lungs. If I ran now, would I make it far? I couldn't fight in the condition I was in. Perhaps a boy my brother's size, but not someone a hand taller and twice my weight. Jared took a step closer, fingering the scabbard at his hip. If you behave, I won't tell the others. It was time to run. My heels dug into the ground as the man leapt. I wasn't fast enough. He caught me in the air, knocking me to the ground. 2 hands pinned my wrists as his knees dug into my legs. I writhed and screamed as the man bent. A foul, sour stench. Ugh! I know of sour smells. Ugh, they're not fun. They are nasty. Assaulting my senses, his lips drew closer to my own. No. My head jerked forward. I learned some moves from fighting with boys my own age. There was a jolting pain and a satisfying crunch. Ooh, must have gotten his nose. Blood sprayed across my face as the man roared, clutching his knife. Knew it. You insolent wench. The man's right fist struck my face as they kneed him in the groin, earning another curse. My face stung, but it was nothing compared to the pain in my hand. Grimy nails dug into the burn, and I shrieked. Why, oh why, didn't I have a way to access my magic like Alex? I twisted and clawed, fighting back with my free arm. Jared reached the top of my tunic, and I swung my fist as hard as I could. The man caught my wrist. I threw my weight into his hold for all I was worth, but the man was too strong. He slapped me again so hard I saw stars. My face snapped to the side as the camp exploded in light. Oh, thank God. Then I started to scream. At least I thought it was me, but it wasn't. I was too busy choking on dirt. The screams were getting louder. Was my hearing damaged? Did he hit me that hard? We might be avoiding it, guys. We might be avoiding that kind of scene. I attempted to pull myself from the ground, trying to make sense of what had just taken place. An immense pounding filled my head as I drew up to my knees. The screams were like the screech of a rusty wagon's wheel. They kept going and going, ringing in my ears. The cries were coming from the shimmering thing in front of me. I blinked twice and my vision cleared. Jared was Oh, enshrouded, sorry. I look like a bee to me. In flame, fire ate away at flesh and cloth in a frantic inferno as he staggered across the camp, shrinking the top of his lungs. Somehow, some way, he'd been set entirely ablaze. Without bothering to wait, I shoved up from the dirt. I sprinted as every muscle inside of me screamed. My trembling hands undid my mare's lead while she stared at me with the wide, unblinking eyes. I gave swift thanks to the gods she was saddled with my bag still attached. Then I swung up into the saddle, wincing as my bad hand brushed the horn. Every part of me ached, but the burn on my palm was the worst of all. I gave the mare what I hoped was a reassuring pat, nudging her forward with my knees. Get back here, boy. Erwin had returned and he was racing towards me, pulse jumping. I leaned down, undoing the two other horses' leads. Our eyes met across the way. He might be able to reach me in time, but his friend would burn alive. The man swore and rushed to Jared's side. Ha! The last rope fell away, and I let out a loud whoop. The other horses startled and scattered as I took off into the night. Try to catch me now. Okay, I am assuming that her magic came out. Because, as far as we know, nobody else was there to save her. So somehow she was able to cast magic. I mean, what else could have set the guy on fire? She wasn't anywhere near the fire as far as we knew, so they couldn't have been that. Okay, how much have I actually recorded? Hang on. Okay, I think I'm good for the time being, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting book reading, guys. I thought for a sec we were going to end up with a rape scene, but thankfully we avoided that. With her magic coming out. I'm actually eager to see how this will go, because like I said, fantasy stories like this are my cup of tea, essentially. I think Harry Potter would have probably been a good given on that one. Well, fantasy and magic, you get what I'm saying. But, yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.